What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time of the week once again for the weekly challenges to refresh, which it does every single Friday. In today's video we're going to be diving into all 5 of the new races and taking a look at the new rewards that are on offer for this week. Again, last week it was all monetary gain and it's pretty much the same this week, apart from one of the tickets has been traded out for a parts ticket. So with that being said, let's head over and have a quick overview at all of the events and rewards that are on offer this week. So as you can see this week, all of the rewards are listed at the bottom of the screen. So for one event it is going to be a 6-star roulette ticket parts ticket. For completing 3 events it's going to be 200,000 credits, and for completing all 5 events it is going to be 500,000 credits. In terms of the events themselves, we have the Sunday Cup Classic over at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Then we have the return of one of my favourite special events, that is the Tourist Trophy over at Tokyo Expressway East Clockwise, obviously aimed at the Audi TT generations. Then we have another one of my favourite events, the Lightweight K Cup, that returns over at Willow Springs Streets of Willow Springs layout. Then we have the Porsche Cup over at Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona at the GP layout with no chicane. And then finally, to finish up, we have the Group 1 Prototype Series over at Fuji International Speedway with multiple different weathers and such like that. So very variable for the last event, but overall a fairly short week in terms of the, overall events combined. They're not really too long. Even the final event is relatively short and can be completed in around about 15 minutes tops. So let's have a look at event number 1, which is the Sunday Cup Classic. Taking place at Raceway Laguna Seca, this is a relatively overall decent event. It can be quite challenging if you are sticking around the, suggested type of cars. So in terms of the vehicles that are mainly going to give you some troubles, it's going to be the little Alfa Romeos that seem to be way ahead of the rest of the pack. So let's dive in and see how to tackle this one. So again, I'm going to put this on the hardest difficulty and I'm going to try and keep us in line with the overall theme of each event as possible. So we've got the Porsche 356, this is the hardtop, not the convertible one, as you can see. In terms of upgrades, there is literally nothing done to this car, so it's straight out of the box how you would buy it out of a Legends dealer. Now in terms of the AI themselves, there is some relatively very slow vehicles in this, overall race, mainly the sort of Fiat 500s, the Mini Cooper and the Volkswagens, so you should be able to work your way through that part of the pack with relative ease. You shouldn't really have any trouble with those cars at all. However, there is a very big gap between the sort of mid-pack to the front of the pack. There is a couple of Alfa Romeos and a Citroen that will sort of maybe cause you a few problems as you go through the pack. Just be aware of the very slow moving Samba bus, because that will start causing a bit of a traffic jam. But after that, you're pretty much onto the home stretch of chasing down the leaders. So once you pass the Palace, you'll probably have a couple of Alfa Romeos that will be pretty far up in front. As you can see, I had to take 7 seconds out of them in a single lap, and I did manage to do that in the final few corners, kind of sliding on by past the Julia there. So we did manage to get this one done and dusted in P1 with around about a second gap. So it can be relatively challenging, made even harder by the sort of shorter gap. But if you do want to, there is no PP limit and you can pretty much use anything you want to. In terms of the payout, it is 22,500 credits with that clean race bonus. So overall, not too bad for a fairly quick 2-lap sprint. And that is obviously going to reward us with the 6-star roulette ticket parts ticket. So that is reward number 1 of the week collected. Let's move in to event number 2 of the week. So event number 2 is going to be the special event for this week. This is the Tourist Trophy over at Tokyo Expressway East counterclockwise. This event, or this special event should I say, has been in the game prior. I think the last one we had was over at the Nürburgring Sprint layout, or maybe the GP. It was definitely one of the Nürburgring layouts. As you can see, very much in line with the same as before. So it's going to be 3 laps, all Audi TTs. A few of them I believe will have upgrades, so just be aware that a standard TT might not be able to do this on the higher difficulties. So I went with a TT of around about 600 plus PP, and that was plenty enough. So honestly, you probably need something around about 500 PP to get this one done. Now just be aware that on these straights, the newer the car, pretty much the faster it's going to be. So some of these TTs do have some relatively decent top speed. Again, it is mainly the newer generations that seem to be much quicker in a straight line. Now I've gone for the original one. As you can see, we're just going to try and make as many moves as possible. There is a bit of a wonkiness to the AI here. I don't know if they just kind of not programmed that well, considering it's obviously a one-time special event, so it's only in there for a week, but they did seem to be sort of all over the place, or maybe it's just the car itself. So just be aware, if you are going for that clean race bonus, which in reality you do want to be going for because the payout can be much better with that clean race bonus, then just be careful that the AI might be all over the place. Now I did take the lead here at the end of lap 1 on the main straight. At this point it was all about just pulling away and getting the event done and dusted as clean as possible. Come the end, I had around about a 13.5 second gap with fastest lap in my pocket as well, so a decent gap to the rest of the field in the end, and that is going to complete event number 2 for the week and give us tick number 2 as well. Now in terms of the payout with the clean race bonus, it's 105,000 credits with that clean race bonus added onto it, should I say. So overall, not too bad for a fairly short event. It should take you around about 6 to 7 minutes tops to get this one done and dusted. And that is also going to give us our driving marathon as well, which was unfortunately only a 3-star. Moving on to event number 3, one of my favourite series in the entire game, the Lightweight K-Cup. This one is going to take us over to the streets of Willow Springs layout at obviously Willow Springs. Again, in terms of the limits here, there is a fair few strict parameters. So it has to be a K car, and it has to be around about 400 pp or less. Now I went for an engine swapped Honda S660 from 2015. This does have the sort of bike sport engine in there from the Honda 2 and 4, I believe. It did take a lot of messing around with to get this under 400 pp, but it seemed to do the job nice enough, so I can't really complain. Again, I did have to kind of nerf it into the ground, but it was very usable, and overall this was a fairly enjoyable event. Now because the cars are so small, there's going to be a bunch of you on this very tight track, so again, if you're aiming for the clean race bonus, just be aware as possible that some of these cars might be moving about, making overtakes and stuff, so just predict that and hold back, and then kind of get the overtakes done on these straights or where you deem it safe to do so. As you can see, I moved through the grid relatively quickly, getting plenty of overtakes done at every opportunity possible. I did have a higher top end, which did make overtaking a bunch of these cars much easier than it probably would have been had I gone for a fairly standard build. As you can see, up to P3 on lap 3 with only a couple of cars left to chase down, which I then caught towards the end of lap 3, and then it was all about building up that lead and getting this event done with. For me, I just find it unfortunate that Polyphony didn't go ahead and add more of these events, because I do think they're very enjoyable, and one of my favourite events that's ever appeared in GT7 was the Lightweight K-Cup Endurance event for 1 hour, so hopefully we do get more of those in the future, but for now that is going to give us tick number 3 of the week, and obviously give us reward number 2 for this week as well. Unfortunately for this event though, the payout is very, very low in terms of the overall time, so only 45,000 credits with that clean race bonus. However, we do get 200,000 credits on top of that, so not too bad in reality. I guess for just that event, if we're going to be really picky, it was 245k. Event number 4 is going to be the return of the Porsche Cup. This is over at Circuit Barcelona Catalunya GP layout without the chicane. Now I'm pretty sure this one actually showed up around about a month or 2 ago. So it does seem like we are starting to get some repeating events now. I'm not a huge fan of this event. I just find the Porsche Cup very, very boring overall. So there is a 650 pp limit in place. You can abuse this if you do wish, but I just wanted an excuse to kind of roll out the more expensive Porsches. So I went and used the 911 GT1, the road going version. Now I knew I wouldn't realistically have the pace to be able to tackle some of the cars at the front. Again, it suffers with that kind of issue of some of the early events of GT7, where the gap to the sort of leader was absolutely massive in comparison to the rest of the field. So it is basically a whole chase the rabbit situation, which is very frustrating. And whilst I don't think it's as bad in the later events in the game, some of these early additional events were just absolutely notorious for it, with the gaps being absolutely ridiculous unless you was running something ridiculously overpowered, which you can't really do here. Although the limit is abusable, it is set in stone. So if you're not that confident at tuning, or maybe you just don't want to, then you may have problems trying to chase down the front lot. As you can see, I ended up P3 in the end. I just didn't have the pace through the corners that the other cars ahead did. However, third place is enough, and that is going to give us tick number 4 for the week. That is going to give us 48,600 credits with the clean race bonus. Overall, it is a decent paying event for what it is. And then finally, we have the Group 1 Prototype Series, this time over at one of my favourite tracks in the game, Fuji International Speedway. Now, just a side note, this one does have weather that is very variable, so it can come in, it might not come in. So just be aware that what I show you here might not and probably will not be the same for you. So I just wanted to use something a little bit different for this event, so I went with the SF23 Super Formula Honda version, and as you can see, I did make relatively easy work of the grid. Now, in terms of my strategy, it was all about running fuel mix 1 on the straights and fuel mix 3 through the corners. This way I can sort of drag my stint out as long as possible, running a set of racing mediums which will not need changing at all. As soon as I got on the straight and I got in the slipstream, it was just a case of using that overtake as much as possible and getting the overtakes done and dusted. Now, in terms of the Super Formula, it does have very good fuel consumption and very good tyre life. I recommend once you start getting a few laps in, or you do notice that it starts going very grey or very dark on the track, that you should start monitoring the weather radar. Now, the rain we got did kind of come in for a split second and then sort of passed over again, so it didn't really affect the race, meaning that once I got to my, I guess, typical pit stop, which for me was at the end of lap 7, I just boxed in, left the tyres, there's no need for me to change them on this car at this point, and just decided to fuel myself all the way to the end. Now, again, because of how the weather works here and it's very variable, there is a chance that you may get some rain come over and then it may kind of disappear, but it may come back towards the final stages, and quite often it can happen at these kind of tracks. A lap later, the leader that we were chasing down did pit in at this point. As you can see, they didn't have enough fuel to get to the end. We did manage to jump them with that early pit stop. As you see, they just started coming out the pits as we went past. However, they did end up losing a few positions in the end, meaning that we had a relatively easy win at the end of this event by around about 15 seconds, with plenty of fuel remaining and plenty of tyre life left. And that is going to give us tick number 5 for the week and the final reward. In terms of the payout with the clean race bonus here, it is only 175,000 credits, so it's really not that good in terms of its payment. Obviously, we are going to get 500,000 credits on top of that for completing all 5 events. So let's have a look at what we had in terms of our rewards this week. So for the 3-star, this is my daily marathon one. We're going to end up with a fully customizable ECU for the Subaru BRZ. Again, a very basic prize and not one I'm really too bothered about. Next up, we have the 6-star roulette ticket parts ticket. This is for completing one single event, so no matter what, it has to be a parts one. However, we did probably get the best one of the bunch, which is the Ultra Turbo for the Bugatti Chiron, so I cannot complain about that one at all. It is a fairly useful part. Credit tickets is 200,000 credits, and then finally the 500,000 credits added to the account as well. So there we go. That is the weekly challenges for this week. Let me know what you think down below. I don't think it's as really good as last week, which was pure money in a very short time, but it's definitely not the worst we've had. Hopefully next week we get a free car and something like that, and some decent events mixed in, because I feel like we're on the back of 2 relatively short weeks and we definitely need something a little bit longer. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to all of my channel members. Take care, guys. Peace.